Wait one second, it's still loading. Apologies for one more moment. There it goes. Good evening, welcome. If this is your first time joining us, you notice that you're all muted and may mute throughout the agenda except for the co-chairs and presenters as we move through the agenda. Following the presentations, as we move through the agenda, the co-chairs will call members of the public wishing to speak. If you're wishing to speak, please press the raise hand feature on the bottom section to raise your hand, not the wave or thumbs up, those appear. Only press it once. If you press it a second time, your hand will go back down. If you're currently calling your phone, press star 9 to raise your hand and star 6 to unmute yourself. Be on the lookout for a prompt. Ask you to confirm muting once the co-chairs call on you. The chat is available for tech support only, and not to ask questions of co-chairs as they will not see the chat. If you're using an older version of Zoom, please go to the rack menu, parsings menu, or a button where it says more, where you can raise your hand there. If you are speaking during the meeting, please make sure to rename yourself to your first and last name so we may know for our record. Please not raise your actual hand or wave at the screen as we see you and chat with the support force.
Okay, thank you, John. I'd like to welcome everyone to the February meeting of the Transportation Committee of Community Board 8. I'm Chuck Warren, one of the co-chairs of the committee, and Craig Lader, my other co-chair, is here also. And why don't we get started? And the first has to do with the New York City Transit MTA Open Stroller Program and a request to expand the pilot on routes serving Community District 8. We've made several requests to get someone from the MTA, New York City Transit here, but for some reason or another, they can't seem to make it, but we thought we would just go ahead anyway. And so is there anyone here, or Craig, do you want to talk about the program? And do we have anyone who
Well,
supported
actually, so the request came from specifically to have it added to this agenda with a potential resolution with Sebastian. Daniel Avasar, who I don't see on here, has been leading this effort and is one
right?
of the
Right.
um one of the founders of, I guess, the effort to actually get the pilot that is currently in place. So, Sebastian, if you want to talk
Yeah.
to this a
Why-
little, I think you can probably provide some context. And Sebastian is a new parent, so he has much
Oh,
more recent experience on this topic than I did.
good.
Yeah, thank you, Chuck. Thank you, Craig. Um, so essentially, this comes from a place of wanting everyone to be able to ride the bus safely and conveniently. The starting point is that the MTA's general policy is that you are not allowed to take an open stroller on most New York City transit buses. To take a stroller on the bus, you have to fold it up. That poses problems for many parents or caregivers because, as you might imagine, if you have only two hands, it is difficult to board a bus carrying a stroller and a baby and maybe a bag that has the baby's diapers and bottles, and then to tap your Omni card to pay for the bus and then hold on to a post while the bus is in motion. It's difficult, trust me. And so, in response to that, a few years ago, the MTA started a program called the Open Stroller Program, which on certain bus routes throughout the city allows parents and caregivers to board the bus with the child still in the stroller still open. They are allowed to board the bus, and these specific buses have designated areas that are reserved for strollers. They are typically just a little nook that is set aside for strollers. In our district, the bus routes that are included in the open stroller program are the M15, the M101, 102, and 103, and then the Q32. And those routes have been included in the open stroller program since fall 2023. When you're boarding these buses, you'll often see a small sign near the front door indicating it's got a little stroller icon, and then there's an area in the main area of the bus for the stroller to go. Now that's great. I use it all the time. The trouble is many of our district's bus routes are not part of the program, and you are not allowed to take an open stroller on the bus. To list off, that's the M1, M2, M3, M4, the M31, M66, M72, M79, M86, M98, and the Q102. And so, especially if you're trying to get crosstown or on any of the avenues on the Fifth Avenue, Madison, or further on the east side, you just can't take a kid in a stroller. And so the ask here would be asking the MTA to expand their existing open stroller program to cover ideally all of the bus routes in our district so that families, caregivers, children can get around the neighborhood and around our city safely and conveniently. So that's the top line. Happy to go into more detail.
And Danielle actually is here now.
Thank you.
Right.
She can speak
Hi.
as well.
Can you hear? Okay, if everyone can hear me.
Yes.
Yes, everything Sebastian said is totally true. I'm the mom that spearheaded this to happen about 2.5 years ago. Me and a bunch of other mothers went to the MTA, complained about it. They turned it into a pilot program. They heard us loud and clear. It was very successful. They had people fill out surveys of whether they liked it or not. It got like an over 90% satisfactory feedback from bus riders. They do want to make it a permanent program, which means that this is something that every bus will be outfitted. New buses that are being designed will have this, and then buses that are currently existing will be retrofitted to have the designated stroller spot. I know that it was a funding issue. From what I understand, the MTA gave a portion of the money to make it happen. I believe the total amount was about $1.4 million or something like that. And then they had to go to each independent boroughs and ask them to put in their share of the payment to make this a permanent program. They were going to announce this in the fall, but it keeps getting pushed out. I'm not really sure why. It sounds to me like it might be some internal political thing, or I don't know if it's a budgetary thing. I have no idea. They're not announcing that it's going to be permanent yet, but they're also not saying that it's not going to happen. So I don't know when it's supposed to happen, but they were supposed to make an announcement in the fall. So this is just where we're at. It's just staying where it is for the time being as a pilot program on specific designated routes, but yes, not all throughout New York City. So this is the current situation.
Thank you. Thank you, Danielle. I know we have people who want to comment before we get to the board. Let's see if there's some comments from the public. I see someone by the name of Craig who identified, it's not Craig later, and who could please identify yourself completely, and we can
Sure.
Craig.
Hi, yes, my name is Craig, and I'm
How about your last name, Craig?
Cohen.
That's what I meant.
Sure, not Staley, Cohen.
Okay.
So, I'm just to clarify. In other words, you want to have a whole bunch of strollers on the bus, not folded up with kids in them and taking up all the space on the
No.
bus? What could you clarify that then?
It's a designated stroller area. So each bus right now would only have one designated spot for an open stroller. That's it. It's like handicap seating. There's a limited
So what
amount,
happens if two
right?
people come on or three people come on and are all
So technically
want
you're
those
not
spots?
supposed to. There's only
Like,
room
the
for
bus
one
driver will
open
stop
stroller.
that?
No,
So
they
who
actually are
regulates
not
that?
allowed. So bus drivers are not allowed to regulate any of it. They actually can't even enforce people to pay on a bus. So
Right.
what's going to happen is going to be on a first come first served basis, most likely. And that's just the best right now that we could do. That's the middle ground that we agree to. But it's supposed to be one stroller, and then you see someone using it, then you either wait for the next bus or you do fold up your stroller.
Okay, done. Thank you. I'll be on later about the 98 bus again. Thank you.
Okay.
I'll talk to you later.
Let's see, Robin Belzer, I think next public member who's be recognized. Go ahead. You have to unmute your, there you go.
Okay, all right. So I just wanted to talk, and I'm not opposed to having places on the bus where people can bring their straws. I understand how difficult it is. But as a passenger on all the bus routes that you just mentioned, there is no designated areas. The front of the bus, people come on, parents and caregivers, and they just take up room in the front of the bus, and they make it an obstacle course to get on the bus. And it's very difficult. And if there were designated areas, that'd be one thing, but the area is the front of the bus. And when people come onto the bus, and it's a crowded bus, it makes it very difficult to navigate it.
Robin, if I may just clarify there, are you referring to the bus routes that are part of the open stroller program or routes that are not part of the program
I
yet?
am on the M86. I live on 86th Street, so I'm on it all the time. I'm on the 15s in both directions. I've gone on the 79. Whatever bus I get on, there are strollers. And to be honest, there are also walkers and all sorts of things that are clogging up the front of the buses. And the MTA has not and I don't expect well, maybe I do, but the drivers do not do anything to navigate that. And so it's an obstacle course between the elderly people that have their devices and the strollers, and plenty of caregivers and parents that are putting the strollers wherever they feel they want to. They make no effort to take it out of the walkway. And I think it's a hazard. I think it's a hazard for people that are trying to get on and off the bus.
Okay, okay, next public member Nancy Cohen.
Hi, good evening. I'm not related to Craig, and I do want to concur with Robin. I do frequently ride both the M15 and the SBS 86. On the M15, yes, I've seen the designated area, but I would like some clarification of what a stroller is. Okay, because there are strollers with back attachments where the second child is standing up. There are double wide strollers that people are now bringing in the back door of the bus because they can't get in the front, because as Robin indicated, there are people there with shopping carts and walkers, etc., or other passengers who happen to be standing, and because the bus is already full. And should we ever get to the point where, buses are free, they are going to be even more crowded. So I would like to understand how we're going to determine who the lucky person is who gets to come on with the one stroller that might fit in the spot if no one else got on 20 blocks south of where they are. So has that been
I was there
addressed?
during I was there during the measurement process when the MTA started rolling out this pilot program. And I will tell you that it's a stroller, it's a one-seat stroller that is supposed to fit in that designated spot. So some buses that are older, there's kind of like a nook in the back where you can push in the stroller, and then the newer ones, you can lift the seats that has the decal. That could fit maybe a stroller that's slightly bigger, but they are supposed to stay in their confined spaces. So I do have a double stroller. I cannot take it on the MTA. I only take it when I have a single stroller. It's supposed to fit in the spot that it's designated for, not anything above that.
Well,
Okay.
as someone who is initiating this, I appreciate that you have taken that into consideration, but I don't have the faith that the rest of the general public is going to comply with any of these. And also how to get them through the front area with the additional obstacle course, because it just holds up all of the buses.
Okay,
So I
thank you.
just want to differentiate the difference between what this pilot program is designated for and then how the rest of the public is actually complying with the rules. Those are two very different things. But the pilot program is not telling everybody to come and, obstruct the way and bring 7 strollers on a bus. That's not what this pilot program is. It is one designated spot for a single stroller to fit in that confined space. What people end up doing, we can't control, but that's not the program.
I'm not sure I understand, and maybe we don't have the MTA people here, but why the bus driver, once you've got one stroller, says, sorry, we can't get any, you can't come on.
They can come on if they fold their stroller. I mean,
No,
otherwise,
unless
there's only one
all
designated
right,
spot.
unless you
I
fold.
could answer that. I could answer that question. Simply put, drivers are trained to not engage with passengers for their own safety, because you never know when even a polite decline of a passenger for any reason could trigger something more serious. So that is rule one for any bus driver, to just not engage, because it is not their job to enforce. It's their job to operate the bus safely and to make sure that things are safe on the bus, and to um and not to direct passengers on and off the bus because of whatever it is, fare payment, strollers, or anything else of that nature.
Well,
That's correct.
that doesn't make as much sense, but all right.
But they can't even enforce people to pay.
Right.
They are not to engage. Otherwise, they can face disciplinary action, which means that they get taken off the job. So they're not there to enforce anything. They're literally there just to drive the bus.
Yeah. And they're quite possibly, I don't know how the union contract reads in New York City for New York City Transit, but there could be union um issues behind that as well.
Right, I'm sure that's true. Okay, well, let's go on here just a second. Dylan, Yen, next.
Hey, so just a couple of questions about this. Um, in theory, right, if a stroller is supposed to be like 1 foot wide, right? Are we relying on is there guidance? Are we relying on the general public to say, hey, maybe we fold up our strollers if the bus gets crowded, or is there no such guidance? Like, I know enforcement is a completely other can of worms, but is there guidance to say, as part of the program, hey, especially on the M66 crosstown when it's 5 p.m., maybe don't have strollers? Is it don't put a full wide stroller where somebody might be able to stand? Is there guidance like that?
There's no guidance as of this moment, and I do believe that when this becomes a permanent thing, there will be, because that's when they're really going to have the full protocol out there. Again, I'm assuming only because this is a pilot program right now, they're just trying to, still collect the data on how this is working. But right now there is nothing official. I mean, we did like a press release once on, Spectrum, and they showed the protocol of coming on the bus and, where you could put your stroller. But it was just like kind of a sample video. It wasn't a bus during like real time that was actually driving with a crowd in it. We had a whole camera crew in there, so it was just like a test show. But I am assuming that once this becomes permanent, they will have something that will be more of a guideline.
But currently, as is, there's basically nothing. It's, even if the bus is packed, I can leave my stroller there. All right, cool.
It's supposed to be one designated spot. That's it for one stroller. What people do outside of that, we can't really control, but there is no specific guideline on how to come on or off. They have not, there's been some pamphlets that I can share with the group that came out early on when this pilot program came out, but that's as far as it went.
Cool, good to know. Thank you.
All right, let's.
And by the way, they were distributed in public libraries. If one of you can get a public library and see if they have any of those pamphlets, maybe you can have more clarity there.
Thank you very much.
All right, let's see. We got a number of other public members who want to comment. Next is Bridget. Sarah is Eisenkite.
Yeah, that's hi everyone. That's me. I'm the husband. I was asked to speak. She's in the middle of bedtime right now. So yeah, as as a father who's got to deal with the same thing, I see people. You get on the bus and it's really just a collection of wheelchairs and walkers and shopping carts and push buggies and those types of things all kind of gathered at the front. I'm sharing the frustration everyone else has, but I guess my confusion here is, I've actually checked some of the legal citations on this, and I'm welcoming someone to challenge me, but the definition of a stroller is remarkably close to that of a wheelchair, right? A 3 or 4 wheel device designed for use indoors by someone with a disability. Unfortunately, my computer just rebooted. I don't have the exact definition right in front of me right now, but I'm going to ask, like, legally, and I mean, frankly, if we're going to do this morally, ethically, what's the difference, right? My kids don't have the ability to walk on their own, right? I'm sure everyone else who's got kids kind of shares that. They just don't have the strength. They don't have the endurance. Actually, I have it here now. Wheelchair, as everyone is saying, is a mobility device, okay, belonging to any class of 3 or 4 or more wheel devices. My stroller, I have one with 3 and one with 4. That's fine, much like everyone else. Usable indoors, check. That my stroller is usable indoors. Designed or modified for and used by individuals with mobility impairments. My 18-month-old has a mobility impairment. They can't walk yet, whether operated manually or powered. I haven't found a powered stroller yet, so wish I did. So really, what's the difference, right? It's kind of how I look at it, how I view it, and frankly, how I wish the general public viewed it as well. So that's kind of where my 2 cents is. That's kind of where I think the law falls. Thanks, Laura, I see you clapping. And frankly, if it came down to that, that's really, I realize my camera's off. Wow, that's really where I would put things. If this ever really came down to a legal challenge, sure. How is a stroller different legally under the Americans with Disabilities Act, under the relevant section, 49 CFR, that really triggers all of these conversations than someone walking on with either a mobility aid, a cane, or in a wheelchair. Thanks.
Thank you. Next is Leah L. I'm not sure who that is.
Hi. I think Dylan partly got to my question, but
could identify yourself, Leah. Identify yourself fully,
yeah,
please.
It's Leah L. Could you clarify whether this rule applies only, or if there's any proposal to make this program apply?
It's going to be a permanent program.
No, I'm sorry. During rush hour.
It's as far as I know. I don't know. Is there any? I don't think there's any differentiation.
So there's no opportunity.
There's no differentiation. No.
Okay.
No, just like if there's traffic during rush hour, a handicapped person is still allowed to go into their designated space. It's the same thing for the stroller.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Next, Nancy Cohen.
Hi, thank you. I just have a follow-up and it's along that similar line. What is the expectation if people are already sitting in the seats where the designated stroller is supposed to go, in terms of getting, asking them what happens if they don't want to stand up? I've seen it happen where they do not get up for the elderly and the disabled, right? So how is this all going to impact the other 40 or 50 passengers on the bus and their commutes to work? Has that been addressed?
It's just like everything. It's just like everything else right now. It's pretend you're going, on the bus with a wheelchair, and if somebody wants to comply to your request, fine. And if not, I guess there's going to be a battle that is going to be had or not to be had. Again, we can't always control what the general public is going to act like. In my scenario, every single time I have come on a crowded bus and somebody was sitting in the designated area, I would say to them, hey, sorry, that's a designated stroller area. And they have all gotten up and I was able to position my stroller with no problem.
As the only stroller on the bus at that time?
Yeah, I was the only stroller on the bus at that time.
I don't envision
but
that
I've been in
happening.
that scenario.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, next, someone identified by RR. Could we please have you identify yourself? Unmute RR with the on an iPad, I guess, some sort. Yeah. Okay.
Hello, my name is Robert Ruszczak, and I'm sorry. I have a great deal of difficulty with the arguments put forward, especially the gentleman who compared strollers to things falling under the ADA. No, I'm sorry. I have a great deal of problems with people who call strollers all-wheel devices to carry children. Double wide, extended length for two people, two children, groceries stacked underneath. I'm sorry, buses aren't equipped for this. I had an appalling bus ride on the M15 on 2nd Avenue coming downtown, where there were 4 of these so-called strollers, 4 at rush hour. And the bus was absolutely crammed. Nobody could move anywhere. And had some poor person gotten on with a wheelchair, I have no idea what would have happened. But I do not think this program is working out well. A stroller is, by my understanding, a small device that can be folded. What I'm seeing on the buses now are not strollers, they are baby carriages. Okay? That's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you. Next, Annie Freezy.
Hi, everyone. Mom of 2, working mom of 2 here. I wanted to comment that I think an important thing to note about stroller access on these buses is, so for example, I have to take a stroller or my nanny about 40 blocks every day to get my child to preschool. And my nanny does not have the capacity to carry my child and her belongings to school with her lunchbox. I have bad scoliosis. I'm not able to. If we really limit our ability to bring strollers onto buses and don't create designated spots for them, first off, the designated spots can help alleviate the concerns that people have about there not being enough room and too many strollers crammed in the walkways. But I think we have to look at the mobility issues, not just of children, because there are children who can't walk well, who, might not need a wheelchair, but certainly have a variety of physical ailments where they need a stroller in the same way that an adult might need a wheelchair, not all the time, but sometime to get around. And what about the caregivers? There are a lot of invisible illnesses that caregivers have, and they're unable to carry their children to fold a stroller. Folding a stroller on a crowded bus and not blocking the way, having done it many times, is very challenging. I fell off of a bus while pregnant trying to fold a stroller for my toddler, getting on and off, and fell onto my belly and my toddler fell onto her face. The current system is not safe for people with physical ailments. I myself have severe scoliosis. I need this stroller. I don't have any other option of how to get my kid to preschool. The closest subway stop with a subway would be about a 30-minute walk from me. So we need to create new ways to share mobility issues with people in the city to make this more inclusive. And I think this is an excellent first step. Not perfect. There are a lot of issues and a lot of things we need to do, but this is a baby step that we can take to help make the city more accessible for people.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I think I see one more member of the public, or we wouldn't be complete without hearing from Andrew Fine.
Hey, Chuck, thank you so much. Father of 3, big mass transit guy. Everybody should look into an umbrella stroller. This is like the way we used to live. We don't need the Rolls Royce of strollers. Getting preferred occupancy on the bus. Just grab your kid, fold it up. That's the way it's always worked. It works well, and clogging up an entire bus. I've been on these buses where, you can't even get to the back of the bus because the strollers are taking up so much space. Just get an umbrella stroller and fold it and move on. That's all I've got to say. Thank you very much. Father of three.
Okay. Let's go to the board now. And first is Lori Boris, who I thought, unless you want me to bypass you while you're eating.
No, it's okay. Thank you, Chuck. I finished my bite.
New grandparents.
Yes, exactly. I don't know in what order I want to say this, but I just want to make a few points. The first thing is to Andrew's point. If you are talking about an umbrella stroller, children are not to be in an umbrella stroller for the first 4 months, 3 or 4 months of their lives. I don't know what the immediate wisdom on that is, but for the first 3 or 4 months, they can't be in an umbrella stroller. And during those first 3 and 4 months, there are many, 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 many visits to the doctor. And how are you supposed to get to the doctor if you can't bring your stroller onto the bus? So that's number one. And number two, I do believe, and I have a disability. I have multiple sclerosis and I have a disabled pass, and I strongly believe that this is the same issue as strollers. I'm sorry, as wheelchairs. It's like a wheelchair is a wheeled vehicle for someone who cannot walk. A stroller is a wheeled vehicle for someone who cannot walk. There is no difference. And a stroller, in fact, is much smaller than a wheelchair. So I think that we have to come around to thinking about children being full citizens and entitled to the many things that we give adults. Now, I understand that the buses are not built today for this, and I am the veteran of many. There were many, many times that I folded up in fact, I bought a stroller that was easy to fold specifically so that I could take the bus. But that being said, there's no reason why they shouldn't be allowed one stroller in a designated area should be allowed on the bus. There's just no, I don't see any argument for anything else. Okay, that's it.
Thank you, Lori. Paul Crickler is next. Paul.
Thank you, Chuck. I just think this is such a no-brainer. I don't know why people think this is a bad thing. Currently, we have chaos on the buses when you have a stroller, which they will come on inevitably, and they should come on. And people come on with walkers, and people come on with what they need to get around and to get their family around. That's what transit should be for, not just for people who are able-bodied. So I fully applaud what Annie said. So the reality is people do already bring on what they need to get around with, and they will continue doing that. All this does is provides a space to put at least one of those bits of things getting in the way, a stroller. We have them on buses already, and it works fantastically because it just gets this stroller, at least one of them, out of the way of blocking the gangway. I don't see why that's a bad thing. And of course, we want to have lots of space for people who need to get around. That's why every bus has the seats where you can take them up for people who need wheelchairs, who use wheelchairs. And we should be doing things like that. So I think this makes it better for everybody. I'm sure there are ways to make it even better. I want to credentialize myself in this argument. I had 3 kids under 3, and getting those 3 kids under 3 around in a stroller, it was a mammoth beast of a thing. I had twins, babies, and 3-year older brother, and I would walk them across on a Sunday morning from the Upper East Side to the Hudson River when they were awake at 6 o'clock in the morning on a nice day, 45-minute walk, pushing that mammoth. Because as anyone who had kids would know, if you can get them moving, they fell asleep finally. And on the way back, the heavens opened up, and I had to beg a bus driver to let us on an empty bus. And I shouldn't have had to beg, by the way. So I've credentialized myself in this argument. I only see this as a good thing, and that's what I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Gail Barron is next. Gail.
Chuck. Certainly, I don't believe anyone is opposed to having everyone have the right to use mass transit. However, when you talk about the buses, what has been occurring is you have not just strollers taking up room, you have strollers taking up the room to the point that they become almost an obstacle course, so that it's a safety issue as well. And I have no problem if you have one stroller, you're able to put that stroller in a designated place. The one thing about the wheelchair is it's flush, so it's not coming out into the aisles or really blocking movement. But I have watched people trip. I saw a woman fall on the Madison Avenue bus about 3.5, 4 weeks ago. And before I tell you about my experience today, I think that some of our fellow board members have been on the bus, whether it's the M15, if it's the 1, 2, 3, 4, the 86 Crosstown, anytime it is busy, there are strollers on those buses, not one stroller, 2 or 3. Today, I was on the Madison Avenue bus on the M4. I got on the express bus. It ended up that there were 3 strollers, and one was the Rolls Royce of strollers. It was so wide that if you were in the front third of the bus, there was absolutely no way that you could get to the back to even get off the bus. There were 6 of us that couldn't get off on 86th Street. We finally got off on 96th Street. So I disagree unless there's a way to have some type of enforcement. If a bus driver cannot, and the bus driver didn't say no when the 3rd stroller and the caregiver came on board. And also remember that a lot of people who are sitting in the front third of the bus can't take subways. They may be older, impaired, have mobility challenges. So I think that unless there's some way to create enforcement, and we live in a very interesting society. It's a me place for everyone. So everybody wants to be comfortable and able to do what they want. And I understand that. But I do think that if at least there was a stroller that folded up, if you had a second one on the bus, and people, if they can't move because it's so crowded and the obstacle course is actually being created by the strollers, what about all the other patrons on the bus? Do they have no rights? I mean, I think that it's important to figure out if we're going to have this type of program. And I think if you have a Nook, you have one stroller, that makes sense. But if the bus driver is not going to be able to say on a crowded bus that the 2nd or 3rd stroller can't come on, how is that going to be handled? Because all the other passengers are being inconvenienced. And it got so crowded that at one point he stopped for 5 minutes before we could continue on until a couple of people managed to squeeze by to the back. That's not customer service for all the passengers on the bus.
Okay. Thank you, Gail. Next is DJ Folkson. DJ.
Hi, thank you. Really interesting discussion. Yeah, I didn't even know until yesterday that I wasn't supposed to be bringing my stroller on most buses. So there is, something to be said for knowledge of the rules and enforcement there being a problem. Zooming out a little bit, I think it's, good to note some context. People in our neighborhood are having kids. You see kids in strollers everywhere. I think when there is kind of changing circumstances like this, if rules don't adjust to the reality on the ground, we predictably see friction. We've seen this with proliferation of dog ownership in the last few years in some ways as well. Most of the comments we're getting talking about the on-the-ground issues with strollers on buses, I don't want to dismiss them at all. I've been on super crowded buses with too many strollers. It's hard to do anything. But it's, eliding that the city has become more and more inhospitable to families over time. Most families with young children are too busy to tune into community board meetings, which is why, the comments I feel are weighted in one way that we're hearing. And, you know, without getting into the specifics, because I think they've been discussed well, I think this is another instance of scarcity forcing conflict on all of us. You know, I think this issue, in my opinion, it's downstream of a bigger one. There should be more frequent buses. When we're talking about the space available on a given bus here, well, if you were able to double the throughput of buses, there would be a lot more space, even without talking about the configuration of a given bus. Which is not actually impossible. It requires a strong focus on bus service and frequency, which we might see from this administration. But I kind of see the space allocation as secondary to that issue. We don't have fast enough or frequent enough buses, which would leave more space for everybody. So that does mean discussing how to make buses better, including getting cars off the road, out of bus lanes. I'll stop there, but I wanted to bring in that context.
Thank you, DJ. Next is Michelle Birnbaum. Michelle?
Yeah, thanks, Chuck. I just have a couple of questions. Sebastian mentioned that at the front of the buses that can accommodate strollers, and there's a little sign that says so, is in the front. Is that in the interior of the bus or the exterior of the bus? On the exterior, you're motioning. Okay. So that a person at the bus stop knows whether or not that bus is capable. Okay. That was what one thing I wanted to clarify also. The second thing is the individual spot designated for the stroller at the back of the bus? And is it different than the designated spots for the mobility chairs and scooters? And it's in the back of the bus. More towards the middle, but not in the front. I'm reading Sebastian's sign language. Okay, so sort of in the middle, not in the trunk. Okay. The other thing
I'm sorry, I was just unmuted, so I can just briefly respond to your question. It varies between the vehicles. On the articulated bendy buses that we get on many of our avenues, it's in about just near the second door, and it is always in a different space from the wheelchair location.
Okay. That was another question I was going to ask. How were the buses that are currently participating in the program, how were they chosen? Were they chosen by route or were they chosen by size? In other words, are those that are participating now larger buses?
They were chosen by route.
By route only.
They were chosen by route.
So whether they are articulated or whether they're not, whether they're crosstown, which are the single buses, not articulated usually. The articulation and the size of the bus had nothing to do with the decision. Danielle, you seem to know.
Correct. Yes, correct.
Nothing to do with the decision. And
no.
And so what did have to do with the decision?
Well, it's per pilot, I guess, it chose various routes.
Well, did they make a choice of the least traveled routes, the heavily traveled routes? Why did they not include a crosstown? I mean, what was there any rationale or anything for the selection?
At first, when it first in its infancy, when it first started, there was only one route per borough, and then they expanded it to various different routes per borough. So I believe Brooklyn has more routes than Manhattan, and so on and so forth. But I don't know exactly why those. I think that had to do with probably the most highly trafficked buses, I'm assuming, or coverage of routes. So that's my best answer to you there.
Okay. All right. Those are my questions. I was trying to get a handle on what were the parameters? What was the rationale when they created the pilot? What were they testing exactly? Where were they, and why did they choose one place over another? And why were there no crosstown buses, or was it the size of the bus? At any rate, okay, it seems to be up in the air. Thanks very much. Those were the questions.
Michelle, next we had Sebastian was next, and I know
was actually going to say, before we go back to Lori and Sebastian, if I could just say a few things. And I actually had
Yeah,
a
sure. Of course.
question for Danielle, which is, when the original pilot was being discussed, was there ever any discussion regarding the size of the strollers that would be permitted, or any potential prohibitions against the extra wide strollers or double wide strollers? And again,
So-
with strollers, there are different sizes, even with among the double, the two-person strollers. Some that are more umbrella strollers could be much narrower than others, obviously.
Yeah, so like I mentioned before, I was there during the measurement process, and for the newer buses, you can flip up the seats, and that can probably fit a slightly larger stroller, which is like the Uppa Baby. Everybody uses the Uppa Baby. The Uppa Baby can fit in those flippable seated areas. However, the older buses, they stripped out like a seat next to the second door down. So like in the back, they stripped out those seats. And that one is harder to fit an Uppa Baby stroller, but can maybe fit something more narrower. So it's really hard to say because every brand has a different width. So there was no, you'd have to really be specific, I guess, about the brand that can or cannot come on, but it's just kind of it's like a parking spot in a way. It's like you have to use your discretion of whether it fits or doesn't fit. But there is no strict regulation. I just know that a double stroller definitely won't fit, whether it's sideways or, stacked on top of each other. It's just for that space that's supposed to accommodate the stroller that you have. That's it.
Okay, thank you. So I feel like there could be some value in, as this potentially expands, to have more clearly delineated rules and perhaps some parameters in place to be able to allow people to have confidence that people aren't going to necessarily abuse the program and take on board the largest and widest strollers or double strollers that will actually have more impactful result in more impacts for
Correct.
passengers. Okay, so
Correct. However, I do want to note, everyone is noticing the amount of strollers that there are on buses, and clearly there is a need for families to have a place on a bus. This is something that's very urgent. We are a city that depends on public transportation. There's no other way around it. When you have a newborn and you need to take them to appointments, there are not a lot of families that can walk, 30 to 40 blocks or spend $80 on Ubers, which is easily what it can come up to these days. So I just really want to take affordability also into consideration when we're talking about strollers and, getting your family around.
Thank you for that comment. And I just want to say a few words, and I guess technically I should be stepping aside as chair to say this, so I will do that. So let me start with this. I really do understand both sides of this issue, as someone who is a bus planner, who is very much concerned about the speed and reliability of buses and making sure that we could keep buses on time and headways consistent so buses don't bunch and that people can get to their destinations on time. That is always going to be a serious concern that bus planners will have to always be thinking about first and foremost. That being said, I think parents should have a fundamental right to be able to use the buses the same way that they can use the subway and any other mode of transportation. In most instances, strollers aren't going to impact anyone in a negative way once they are actually on a bus. And while I appreciate the comments made by those who oppose this, and there were some that were really quite thoughtful, at times I did hear what I felt like was a lack of sympathy and empathy towards parents and caregivers. And I found that surprising, as if some passengers were expressing an entitlement to space on a bus more than those that are with are there with strollers, or the children themselves, or anyone who requires more space than they take up. And I mean, should we be resenting those who are in wheelchairs and need to take up more space, or have a walker, or have luggage, or have anything that they may need to take on board, any type of form of transit? So I really think that, like everything else, passengers will adjust once this program really hits its stride. There will be a learning curve, and I'm sure there will be occasions where passengers may feel frustration, but I see no reason why it can't become an accepted part of the of the transit experience, and especially with a education campaign that could really help people understand the rules and potential parameters of the program, if we were to try to limit it in certain ways to make sure that it's not too intrusive or obtrusive. Let's also give parents the benefit of the doubt that they'll largely do the right thing, and I hope and expect that they will do their best not to be in the way and respect the rules if the designated space is not available. I remember when I was a parent with a young child who was always taking my son around on a stroller or in a baby Bjorn or whatever it was, and I was always on the lookout to make sure that whatever I was doing was not interfering with other people who were just going about their business trying to get around. I would think and expect that most people are going to be respectful in that same way. And also, finally, let's not lose sight of the fact that much of our transit system is just simply not accessible. There are many New Yorkers who can't use the subway because of a lack of elevators, and that applies to parents with strollers and with children as well. For various reasons, it is not really feasible for them to use the subways, and buses become their primary mode to travel by. And it's just fundamentally, in my mind, not fair that we should be limiting and that includes the youngest children to the oldest citizens, from being able to get around. So to me, it's a question of priorities, and we should be really finding ways to make transit truly accessible for all. This should be one way of doing so, and it would show tremendous progress if we were to advance this.
Thank you, Craig. Listen, we've kicked this around a fair amount. I think we've got all sides of the issue here, and we have a request to expand the pilot on other routes in our community district. And the question is, does anyone want to, take any action on that? And,
May I offer a motion, Chuck?
yes, you may.
I move that we call on the MTA to expand the bus open stroller program to allow open strollers on all bus routes in our district, and ensure there is clear signage of the rules of the program so everyone knows what to do right.
Is there a second to that? Lori seconding. Okay. All right. So we can have some further discussion on that. And I see Judy hasn't spoken. So let me call on Judy, and then we can talk to any other board members, talk about this.
Yeah, since this is a pilot program, do we know how long this pilot program, as it exists now, is supposed to go on before we go any further?
My understanding is that it's been running for now at least 2 years. And as Danielle was mentioning, it has been unclear exactly what the MTA is doing to wrap it up. And so this is encouraging them to reach a decision and wrap it up and deliver a final conclusion.
Okay, and one question for Chuck and Greg. I take it there's no one at the MTA that either of you have been able to reach about this program? You've tried, and
yeah, we've asked them to appear before the committee several times, and each time they say, well, we can't make it, and it's been going on for a few months. So that's why we went for we didn't think it was fair to keep putting it off.
Yeah, no, you're right. Thank you.
Okay.
I think we originally were talking about having them in as early as September.
Correct.
And here we are in February.
Yes.
I raised the issue with Chuck and Craig when my daughter was 2 months old. She's now 7.5 months old.
Okay, that's an easy way to measure things. Okay, so we have some other members who wanted. Lori, did you want to make a further comment? And Gail, go ahead.
Thank you. Yes, I wanted to make actually like a suggestion, I guess, or a question. Why is it not possible, or is it not possible to use like every bus has an area for wheelchairs, which has the seats that go up. If there's no one on the bus in a wheelchair, wouldn't it be advisable to put the seat up to allow a stroller on it?
Well,
No, because it's not technically a designated space. Designated stroller space has to go into a designated stroller spot.
I
That's
guess you
the
never
way
know.
it's
Somebody
supposed to
might
work.
come on at the next stop who needs it.
Yeah, but even if there were let's say there were 2 wheelchairs on the bus already, then there wouldn't be space for another one. So you just have to say no, wait for the next bus. I mean, it's just the same thing. I'm just thinking about, the availability of the space. And there are certainly, I would think, maybe not on all routes, because obviously I haven't ridden all the routes, but in this neighborhood, let's say in this neighborhood, I think there are far more strollers than there are people in wheelchairs, but anyway, I want to thank Craig for making the points that he made, which I think were very excellent. And I just would like people to start to think about this as it's an accessibility issue. You cannot go on the subway because you can't take a stroller down, there's no accessibility on the stroller. Like 25% of subways have an elevator, which is like way not enough. And we just have to get used to the fact that like strollers are going to be around us. Okay, that's it. I don't want to say anymore.
I should point out that I'm a consistent subway rider. I really don't ride the bus very much, but there are a lot of strollers that are brought on the subways.
Yeah, well,
those of you who might not
no,
know
you
that.
have somebody who can take the front of it and carry it down,
Right, and people help, and people help a lot
They
with
do.
taking
Yeah,
the front of the strollers
that's
on the
true. I
subway.
mean,
But I don't want to,
okay.
carry on. So I just want to mention it. The Gail. Let's go to Gail here. Yeah,
Craig,
go ahead.
hi, Craig. I really agree with you that it has to be a balance. There are pros and there are cons. What I do disagree with, and I think should be clarified, I can't imagine anyone who spoke earlier, and not just in opposition, but more raising concerns of what is currently happening, because there is a reality of what happens in crowded buses with the strollers, that they're not empathetic to parents. And we've all been there, or many of us have been there, or we're grandparents, so we understand it. But my concern is that then there isn't any form of enforcement, and we can have kumbaya that all people are going to be nice to each other and not give space up to the stroller and be okay going around the obstacle course. It doesn't always work that way. So if you don't have enforcement, and even if you've got one area where you could put a stroller, you still are going to have other strollers that are going to be clogging the pathway, and that does disadvantage everyone on the bus. And then you talk in terms of people who have any type of mobility impairment. I agree, they normally end up sitting at the front of the bus. So if strollers are blocking the pathway to exit out the back, and they don't have the mobility to be able to weave through it, particularly, and on most of the buses in our neighborhood, how they jerk back and forth. So, I mean, I think that we should, if we go ahead and we say, gee, this is great, let's just continue with the pilot program. And then we know that they're young families and we want to keep them in the city. But what do we do if you suddenly do have those 3 additional strollers on because the driver can't say anything? I think we should look for a solution where there's some way where there's a courtesy where the driver or someone from the MTA can say 1 stroller is allowed and there's a designated area, and everybody would be happy that they could still get through the path of the bus And yet you're trying to accommodate people in strollers. But I think that I understand about the umbrella stroller. But today, one of the strollers was a double stroller, and it was like a baby Rolls Royce. I mean, so if you can't even determine what the dimensions are that are allowed, I mean, in essence, what we're saying is that babies have, and caregivers and families should always have the right to be on the bus, but to disadvantage other people. It has to be a balance, is all I'm saying.
Okay, thank
Appreciate
you.
your
Listen,
comments and yeah, and thank you for that, Gail. And I think you're right. There absolutely needs to be a balance, and I think part of it is developing a program in a way where people have a clear understanding of the rule. And you make some really valid points in terms of enforcement challenges. It's a fundamental issue with buses where the drivers only have so much ability to do things. So it is in some ways self-policing. But as I said, I still would hope that most people will do the right thing and be respectful and see the situation around them and try to adjust if they see that their strollers are creating any type of interference or challenges in terms of people being able to get to the doors of the buses or anything else. So
I must just be on the buses when those types of people aren't there with the strollers.
okay, let
that's
me.
that's why I said double strollers. I would absolutely agree. Those don't work on buses.
All right. Someone who hasn't, I want to recognize John Phillips, who hasn't spoken before on this issue. Go ahead. Let's unmute John.
Thank you, Chuck. I appreciate it. In considering the question and the reality of the pilot program moving beyond its pilot phase, the clarifying question that I have is, are we talking about a single space for a single stroller and the companion of that stroller? Or are we talking about a program in the future that is going to look like multiple strollers per bus? The reason I ask that question is the arguments pro stroller section or nook on the bus actually does make some sense, and I think it has the ability to clarify some of the congestion that we often see on buses as a result of people just trying to fit in there. And I would absolutely be in favor of it. The concern I have is going into the future if we see lobbying for multiple spots where we really run into an issue of maybe being a little bit less sensitive to the average bus rider than we maybe should be.
I think, and Danielle should clarify this. I think that's, we're talking about expanding the pilot program. It's one space on the bus for strollers.
And just to reiterate the
Yeah,
resolution, that's expanding the existing program and having clear signage. So not allowing multiple strollers. And I would hope that having the clear signage of the rules will actually make more people aware of these rules in the first place.
And also keeping in mind that we're going to see some portion of the population that are not going to abide by the rules, which is just a fact of life in New York City. And
yes, exactly. Unfortunately, you're right, John. Paul is next. Paul,
Yes.
maybe call Crickler.
I'd like to pick up on where DJ left off about allocation of space. This is an issue of we have a finite amount of space and we shouldn't have to be fighting for it. The other way of fixing that in the meantime, until we can get double the number of buses or the buses going quicker because they're not being blocked, is to have less seats in the bus, to recognize that we're all, many of us, at one stage or another in our lives, needing to have more space on a bus for all sorts of reasons. A lot of countries have buses with much more space, less seating for people with wheelchairs, people with walkers, people with huge amounts of shop, whatever it is. We all have to have, if we don't dedicate more space to everyone, we're basically saying that the bus should be there only for people who can get around easily. If you're, for that stage of your life, those few years of your life when you have young kids who can't walk around on their own, you're relegated to not being able to get around like everybody else can. And that's just not right. So there are two ways of solving it. Get more buses, make them go quicker and make them go faster, more frequent and faster, and carve out more space that everyone can do. And it works in so many countries, even London buses. Those of you who've been to my old hometown, downstairs nowadays, since I left, is about half the space. It's just open. So anyone with a big device can get on there. And it's much easier. So thank you.
Well, thank you. In the interest of movement, I'd like to see if we can vote on this at this point. And we've had enough conversation, frankly. So I think we're gonna. I'm calling for a vote right now. So, Ms. Kell, you've already spoken, so let's leave it at that.
So let me just call the roll then.
Let's call a
It's-
roll first.
All
Oh,
right, so
Judy, what?
Point of information, could you please repeat the motion?
Yes, go ahead, Sebastian. It's basically to expand the pilot program, as I understand it, which is one space on the bus to all the routes in our community district with appropriate signage and instructions exactly how the program works. Does that get it, Sebastian? Got it. Okay. Yeah, go
Thank
ahead.
you.
Craig, why don't you call a roll basically and
All
see
right.
what we're all here.
myself, it's me, Chuck, Daniel, Danielle, DJ, Gail, John McClement, John Phillips, Judy, Lori, Michelle, Paul, Sebastian.
Okay. Okay, so those who are in favor of it don't have to do anything. Those who are either opposed or abstaining or not voting for any other reason should raise their hand. Okay, Michelle?
Well, I had a friendly amendment before I was so rudely treated, so I'm going to have to abstain.
Okay, thank you. Gail?
Since there's no enforcement information, I vote no.
Okay, that's no. Any other hands raised that want to vote differently? Okay,
So that's 10 to 1, one abstention.
one abstention. Okay. Thanks, everyone. We had a very long and vigorous discussion, and this will obviously come up at the full board. Okay, item number 2 is continued discussion regarding helicopter noise and calls to have non-essential ban non-essential helicopter flights. And I know we have someone here to make a presentation who's been here before, and this is Andrew Rosenthal. And why don't we unmute Andy, I guess.
Either way, thank you very much for making time for this tonight. As a former resident of the Upper East Side, I now live on the Upper West Side. Both
You can't speak. Sorry, you can't speak then. I'm just kidding.
Both sides of town, and in fact, most of the 5 boroughs are being bombarded with lots of helicopters, and this is not going away. In fact, it's increasing with the efforts of the industry. So I'm going to make this presentation very quick and then just open it up. The update is about 10 months ago, we did get the first ever bill through any legislative body to regulate helicopters. And that was through the city council. We now have local law 64. It was intro 26. And unfortunately, as many things happen in city hall or in politics, the bill was watered down before it was passed. So we have a bill that does not kick in until December of 2029. The intention of that bill is to ban noisy, quote unquote, I'm not going to get into the technical nature of it, noisy helicopters from the city-owned heliports. Despite the fact that it's not going to be enforceable until 2029, the industry has taken the city to court, and so it's in court already, and we'll see where that goes. There is a way around this. Instead of trying to sensibly regulate them, which maybe the city council did, the answer is fully under our political leaders' control. Let me step back and just describe the whole helicopter issue for people here who may not be apprised. There are 3 heliports on the island of Manhattan. All 3 heliports are owned by the taxpayers in various ways. There are two heliports on the East River. The world's busiest heliport, formerly known as Downtown Manhattan or the Wall Street Heliport, Pier 6, now called Downtown Skyport, that handles about 35,000 helicopter operations per year. There is a second city-owned heliport on East 34th Street, right behind NYU Hospital, so you may be familiar with that. There used to be a heliport at East 60th Street, which Mayor Giuliani shut, so in your district. Now the problem is still existent in 3 other neighborhoods, and the final heliport, which has a little bit different ownership structure, rather than the city-owned 2 East River heliports, is West 30th Street by Hudson Yards. And that is owned and controlled by the Hudson River Park Trust, which is a very weird city-state entity where the mayor and the governor jointly control, but they both have to accede in order to pass any policies. And so you need unanimity between the mayor's appointees and the governor's appointees. The mayor cannot do it solo, nor can the governor do it solo. They have to work together. And so that's the situation. There are also helicopter traffic, much of which bothers the Upper East Side, are tourist helicopters coming from New Jersey. And that's a whole nother ball of wax, which Stop the Chop is working on. And in fact, we have made lots of progress with a good group of activists from New Jersey. And tomorrow we will be in court in Kearney, New Jersey, fighting the heliport, which is the source of almost all the helicopters that fly over the Upper East Side at this point. So we're working on that. I don't know where it's going to go because it's in a very strange venue. But what we are here tonight to ask this group is we're looking for a resolution calling on the mayor to do what he said he would do in the primary. There was a question in the June Democratic mayoral primary. Should we limit or regulate helicopters? Our current mayor gave the perfect answer from our perspective and said we should ban all non-essential helicopters, which is our mission statement. And so we would like a resolution asking the mayor to do what he said he would do back in June. And that's what I'm here for. So I said I would keep it very, very quick. I could go on for hours, but you guys have had enough debate tonight, I think. I just here really to answer questions about various things. And we also can provide this group with a sample of resolution language, if you so want. So, but really it's just asking the mayor to do what he said he would do, close the 2 East River heliports. Mayor Giuliani, back when he closed East 60th, said he was going to try and close the others. He did not complete the task for various reasons. Those reasons no longer exist. The mayor can do 2 of them tomorrow, which would be about half of the helicopter flights over the metropolitan area. I'll give one more thing. We have a federal bill. So if you'd like, it would be great to have language in there. This is the descendant of a bill that Jerry Nadler and Carolyn Maloney put together several years ago. Jerry is currently a co-sponsor. It is actually the first ever, I think, bipartisan bill. We have Congresswoman Malliotakis from Staten Island has signed on as a co-sponsor with Jerry Nadler, Nydia Velasquez, and a number of other New York area Congress people. It is also by state. We have Congressman Menendez on that bill. That bill would put a ban on all helicopter flights, non-essential, within 20 miles of the Statue of Liberty, which would cover the entire CB8 and then some. Pretty much all of New York City and the waterfront of New Jersey would be protected. There is precedent for this. After 9/11, there was an anti-terrorism bill in 2003. And in that bill, Disney World and Disneyland got a no-fly zone, in theory, to protect them from terrorists. But in reality, it's something that they've been asking for years and years, and they were finally able to get it passed. So what we like to say is all we want for New York City is what Disney World has.
You just want the same thing that Mickey Mouse wanted. Okay.
That's right. Just a sensible policy. Obviously, there have been numerous crashes. One, again, not that long ago, 7, 8 years ago in your district, that could have come down in Central Park. That could have come down anywhere on the Upper East Side. The pilot was skillful enough to land the craft in the East River. Unfortunately, nobody was able to get, the passengers weren't able to get out, and 5 young people drowned. But, these things happen all the time. We had one last spring near the New Jersey waterfront. It just literally fell apart in the sky. And that's not uncommon for helicopters. And so, there's a safety issue here, there's a quality of life issue, and nobody needs a helicopter. We're not trying to stop news, police, medical, military, or government. We're looking just to stop 2 types, really: tourists and charter flights.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Andy. All right, we'll hear from the public first, and I see Andrew Fine has his hand up. So can we unmute Andrew?
Thanks, Chuck. I appreciate it. Just want to say fully 100% supportive of the presenter Stop the Chop. There's no reason whatsoever that tens of thousands of New Yorkers should be in Central Park trying to enjoy a little peace, a little serenity, an oasis from the chaos of the city, only to have like helicopter after helicopter flying overhead. And you're literally inconveniencing and burdening like tens of thousands of New Yorkers. So a few very wealthy can fly over and be like, wow, what a great park. I mean, the risk and the reward there just doesn't add up. It's a total nuisance. And I don't know if anybody's ever been to Governor's Island, but it should be a great place to go and like visit and enjoy. But it's like it's no. I was gonna say it's like Vietnam, but it's and I was not at Vietnam. Just slightly younger than that age, but it's such a nuisance. There's no reason that we should all be inconvenienced by noise and aggravation for a few tourists or a few people trying to get to the Hamptons. Very jealous of that express route. But so for all those reasons, I say stop the chop, please.
Thank you, Andrew. And we'll go to the board. Michelle Birnbaum.
Yeah, I have to say I see it a different way. First of all, where you're hearing a lot of helicopters over Governor's Island, over Central Park, over Bryant Park, very often the only way you can have security and monitor the crowds in the city is by having oversight, literally oversight through a helicopter. Access and monitoring and policing and enforcing in this city cannot always happen on the ground. You know that the traffic is impossible.
Michelle, if I can interrupt, we are
No,
not.
you can't interrupt. Excuse me. Your time for presentation, my understanding, is done.
You can answer. You can answer after she's done.
At any rate, when I finish. So I don't have an objection to the ability of helicopters to be able to fly when directed to do so. And I know that the argument will be, well, we said non-essential. Well, that is in the eyes of the beholder. I don't think that a tourist helicopter is non-essential. I think tourism is a very big part of the city, and it is, people own these businesses. I imagine they pay for the right to land and to take off, and to have 2 helicopter pads to try to remove them in the city and have a city the size of New York with only 1 pad downtown, I don't think is prudent. I don't know whether or not the hospitals on their roofs necessarily have heliports. Some of them were built a very long time ago. I don't know whether or not they could account for that. Having an Upper East Side heliport for medical access, to me, would be vital. And in terms of the noise, because you're trying to get peace and tranquility in Manhattan, I don't know where you're finding that. You're not finding it in Central Park. You're not finding it on, maybe Governor's Island until the transport there gets a little better. But this is a major city with many, many reasons to have many different modes of transportation, just the way that it was described in item 1 on the agenda today. And there has to be room for everybody. And if you want to have access to LaGuardia via helicopter, the Hamptons via helicopter, if you want to have security over your parks with helicopter, not to mention all the other necessary monitoring that the police or any other government agency might do. I think that it's important to have it. I think maybe innovation in the future will get a quieter helicopter. I think we can all petition for that, but I certainly wouldn't shut down access to them or demean their use or value because of noise. If you did that in this city, you'd have to eliminate a lot of things. Thank you.
Okay, can I respond? Because I think maybe you didn't hear me. We are
I think
not.
she heard you. I did think she hear you. She defines non-essential or
There's a very legal
essential a
definition,
lot more than you do.
which our congressional representatives came up with and we have supported. We are not trying to ground one single medical helicopter or one single NYPD or military. I said at the beginning of this
Chuck
presentation.
defined it correctly. I am defining essential in a broader vein than you are. I understood quite well what you said, and you have also repeated it. So I'd like to hear from the other board members now. Thank you respectfully. Thanks for being here, and thanks for the presentation.
That's what I thought. Go ahead, Paul. Let's go to Paul Crickler.
Thank you very much. First of all, thank you very much for such a clear presentation, Andy. Nice to see you. I thought it was very, very helpful, very clear. All I want to say is I'm 100% in support of this. I can see no reason not to say yes. I can't imagine why anybody would want to have all this noise here when we don't need it. We live here. Thank you.
Thank you. Lori?
Yes, thank you, Chuck. I agree 100% with Andy Rosenthal, and wish you a lot of luck. And whenever I hear about helicopters, two things come immediately to mind. Number one is just my visceral reaction when I heard many, many years ago the recording of the woman who was coming down. She was a reporter for, I don't know, Channel 7 or something, and all you heard was hit the water, hit the water, hit the water, and that, it just gets me whenever I hear helicopters. The other thing is, I used to work for ABC News, and Primetime Live did an excellent piece on how the helicopter industry is famous for using fake parts, like not authorized parts, to fix the helicopters, and that is responsible for many, many of the crashes, which of course we have no control over. So I just want to say that, so I'm totally opposed to tourists taking, a joyride over the Hudson or the East River or whatever. I 100% support your effort. Thank you. Thank you for doing it.
Sebastian, I think, is next. If maybe he wants to do something.
Thank you, Chuck. I would like to make a motion and ever so briefly speak to it, if seconded. The motion would be to follow Stop the Chop's recommendation here. And so specifically, that is calling on the mayor to take the actions he is able to take with respect to the heliports in the city to reduce their use for non-essential purposes, and calling on, I guess, that federal legislation, trying to make that go further. And Andy, I'd appreciate your guidance on exactly text that would be most appropriate on both of those points.
Yeah, we have a draft which we can send across.
Okay.
So,
is there a second?
Every CB has their own style. So
right. No, we understand. Let's get a second on that first, and then Lori and Paul second that. Okay. Okay, sir, and you can send something. Actually, if you would, Andy, just send something over to the board office. Email something.
Okay.
And Okay, I think I don't see any further comments here. Paul, did you want to say anything further?
If there are no
Oh,
more comments, I can call the question.
Okay, well, let's vote. And you want to call the roll again, Craig, just to make sure everybody's still here?
All right, it's me, you, Chuck, Danielle's left, DJ, Gail left, John McClement, John Phillips, Judy, Lori, Michelle, Paul, Sebastian.
Okay, all right. So all those in favor don't have to say anything. Anyone opposed or abstaining or not voting for any other reason, please raise their hand. And Michelle, go ahead.
No.
Michelle voting no. And DJ?
I'm a no as well. Thanks.
DJ also no.
And I am a no.
Okay. I guess three
John
no's.
Phillips.
Is that it? Oh,
John Phillips.
Oh, I didn't see John. Okay, sorry.
I'm also a no.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, so we have 4 no's and how many?
And 6 yes.
Okay, 6 yes and 4 no's. Okay, good. Thanks, everyone. Okay, we're up to updates from the New York City Department of Transportation. I know Raphael is here and
Can someone
Got it.
Raphael,
okay.
yeah, I just got somehow I got it.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, it was me. It was on my end. Raphael, can you do you have any updates you want to give us?
Yes, of course. Thank you, Chuck and Greg and everybody else in this meeting. I have a few things to bring up to your attentions. And we begin with pedestrian islands that you have brought up to our attention in the past.
Yes.
On 3rd Avenue as well on 2nd Avenue. And you have concerned about the painted island that has been done in those in that corridor. We are considering and we are looking towards making that concrete island in the future, and we're working on the way we are going to approach that. Also, the one on 2nd Avenue, which you have brought up as well, they're considering 4 pedestrian island on 2nd Avenue in the 80s. Don't know exactly which one they are, but I just wanted to kind of let you know that we are thinking about it. We've been reviewing it, and hopefully we'll have some positive response in the future. Also, the York Avenue study, the famous York Avenue study, which have been your concern as well, in terms of its commencement. We are very worried that doing it the way you have suggested in segment will not provide accurate data. And so we could agree that if you put forward a resolution asking us to begin the study during the DDC work, we could do it, but it would be in the entirety, not in segment as you have suggested, because doing it the entire corridor will provide accuracy in the data collecting. So that's one. What's the other one? Oh, okay. Another one is the Queensboro Bridge and First Avenue exit. we are considering, and the way we have looked at it is that it might be possible to alleviate the problem that Craig's have presented in the past. So that is, let me see if I see another one. Okay. And there is another item, but I'm not sure how important it is to you. Is the 308 East 79th Street? The loading zone that we requested. We are also looking at it, and I will have some response sometime in the near future. And that's it for me.
Okay, thanks. We're gonna discuss the York Avenue traffic study, you know, under new business, Raphael. So, yeah, if you're around for that. Are there any questions from that people have for Raphael at this point? I don't know. I see some hands raised. I don't know if it's on that or other business here.
And I'll just ask if we could just keep the York Avenue item separate, because that
Right,
we have
right.
pulled out in the agenda to be a
Right.
specific discussion point in light
Right.
of Raphael's comments.
Yeah. Yeah. So if the hands raised are for things that Raphael has said or things you want to bring to his attention, keep them raised. But if not, not. Well, let's go. We have a couple of public. We have Evelyn David here and Andrew Fine. So and Dylan. Yeah, and so let's go ahead, Evelyn.
Hi, good evening. It's Evelyn David. Yes, I hope everybody's well, even though it's freezing. My car, this is about Park Avenue. Again, I brought it up last year with the plows. The only place in New York City where the snow can be put the other way, instead of putting it on the cars with the plow in the front angled so that it goes on the cars, it could be angled going on the median. And I have a friend that works in the garage. He said it's not that big a deal just to get one or two plows, even just one, okay, and take the plow in the front and angle it the other way so it goes on the median. It's odd. New York City doesn't have this in any other place, as far as I know, where you can put the snow in a place just not covering cars. Because, frankly, I kept doing my car and trying to keep ahead of the snow. And then I was like, okay, I've got it. And then he comes by again and whoa, we all got it, right? Except this time, the last plow that came through really put everything on the cars. So, but you know, I understand you have to clean the streets, but it is a 3-lane street. So if you look at Lexington Avenue, there's only two lanes left. Actually, if a car is double parked, there's 1 lane, okay? Because of the bike lanes and the bus lanes, the streets have gotten more narrow. So Park Avenue's got 3 great big lanes. There is enough laneage to put the snow, start off by putting it over in the left lane, and then come back again and put it farther over and farther until finally it goes on the median. And it's not impossible, and Park Avenue is not that long. It just goes up to 96th Street, and that's it. And then guy turns around and goes the other side. So, I mean, that's what I am really looking for. All of us, there are cars there that are completely plowed under. It's terrible. I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, they can't do anything. So
thank you.
That
Evelyn.
is what I'm looking for. Thank you very much, and I hope you're listening, Raphael.
Well, Raphael may be listening, but he's not the person. This is the Department of Sanitation. So it's always nice to hear about. We do have jurisdiction over the streets a lot, but that's one of the things we don't have jurisdiction over is it's Department of Sanitation. But we can pass that on. We can have the board office pass that on to the Department of Sanitation.
I would also think that
thank you, Chuck, for clarifying.
I would also think that those who maintain the median in Park Avenue would probably not be happy if snow were piled on there.
Well, that's a whole other issue.
Yes, exactly.
Yes. All right. Andrew Fine.
Thanks, Chuck and Craig, and thank you guys really for doing such a great job on keeping an eye on transportation issues for the community. Um, I'm wondering, there are a couple of things that are suddenly being considered. The Queensboro Bridge issue on First Avenue, um, the pedestrian islands on Third Avenue. I don't even understand how this is quote unquote being considered because this was, I think, a prerequisite of rearranging Third Avenue for bike lanes, and I feel like that we were just like straight up neglected. I feel like it was like a land grab, and they just plowed forward, and they're like, yeah, we'll put the pedestrian islands in later. And now it's being considered like a couple of years later. I just don't get it. So I'd love an answer on that. Um, there's still like, broken record. Thank you very much. Alternate side of the street parking on the east side of Lexington Avenue, or some sort of clearance for at least a half an hour every 24 hours where sanitation can come and clean Lexington Avenue on the east side of the street between 96th Street and 60th Street. That would be greatly appreciated. I still don't understand like why this is a point of contention. Every other avenue has an opportunity where you can clean the street. Somehow Lexington Avenue can just be a rat hole. And finally, um, I don't know, like I assume that people on the community board live in the community, but if anybody has like taken a look at Third Avenue since the green wave took place, I mean, it's the red wave. The traffic is not moving at all. Buses, there's no way that buses are moving faster. Um, Cabs are certainly stuck. Cars are stuck. It is gridlock, and it's like a 2 mile an hour speed on Third Avenue now, thanks to the green wave. And on the positive side, Raphael, I'd like to say your artwork game is solid, man. I love it. I love you've got the best Zoom of the night. So thanks for that. But I'd love to get answers on Third Avenue and all the issues that we're facing. Thank you.
Well, the pedestrian questions has been a concern from the board, particularly the Transportation Committee. And we had a painted island that is going to be redone, and concrete pedestrian island will be implemented. The Third Avenue, we have discussed that in the past. I don't remember exactly what we have done, and I understand that was explained and addressed accordingly. So I'm unable to tell you anything more about that. And what was the other point that you brought up?
Well, can I just let me answer on a couple of those things, Raphael?
Yes, thank you.
First of all, on the pedestrian islands issue, that was something where this board basically pushed for the redesign on Third Avenue and Second Avenue, mostly for pedestrian safety. And in general, the Department of Transportation agreed that that's something that ought to be done. But what they've done for really cost reasons is that they haven't, and I don't know, whatever timing reasons, haven't put it in the actual infrastructure that should be put in, but they've just painted things there. And that really doesn't work as well. And we've been urging them to get moving. And that's what's been happening from our perspective on that. Secondly, on something I know that's very close to Andrew Fine's heart, and we passed a resolution saying that they ought to, on Lexington Avenue and from 96th Street down, they ought to have some time set aside for street cleaning. Apparently, they went to the Department of Sanitation. The Department of Sanitation said it wasn't necessary, and so DOT has basically come back to us and said, "Well, we don't feel we can do anything because the Department of Transportation doesn't want to do it." And I don't know what the issue is with them on that, but I mean, I think that's where you're getting the pushback from that. I see you're shaking your head, and we could talk about it some more, but that's the reality right now as far as we understand it. And I'm not sure what the other issue was there.
Yes, you're right, Chuck. I remember this clearly now that indeed it hinges on the sanitation response, and that was the third point that Andrew brought up, which is the lexicon cleaning. So thank you for clarifying that, Chuck.
Okay, let's go to Dylan Yen, and we'll get back. If we have to further discuss this, we'll get back to it. Dylan?
Thanks, Chuck. So Raphael, one thing I want to echo is Andrew's concern about 3rd Avenue. I live on 3rd Avenue in the 60s. It is complete gridlock.
That's the other one.
Yeah, it's complete gridlock after the 15-mile-an-hour speed limit green wave implementation for e-bikes not to run reds. So that's what we're talking about. And the other thing is about the Queensboro Bridge. The implementation of changing the westbound on 63rd Street, I believe DOT came and presented us that they were going to take away one through lane and make both lanes left and cut the turning time in half. If I remember, I think this was presented to this board in December. They implemented that, but it feels like they implemented it halfway. So when you're coming off the Queensboro Bridge and you're trying to go northbound, let's say on 3rd Avenue rather than 1st, you're turning onto 2nd and maybe through to 63rd. Now it's a green light and a red light at the same time. And what ends up happening is because both lanes are left turn only and there are multiple residential buildings on the north side of the street, when people are loading and unloading, what ends up happening is all of the traffic that now only has half the amount of time to quote unquote turn is now backing up all the way up the Queensboro Bridge, further exacerbating the problem that Craig actually pointed out in his lovely presentation on 1st Avenue. I'm glad to hear that there is some change being considered for 1st Avenue. If you mind going into what that is, I'd be very interested in what the DOT has planned there. Because I see you guys put like some plastic stalks on the side of the bike lane, but that doesn't actually solve the problem.
Right.
And then the new signal timing, the new south side signal timing that you guys put in and then cut the turn signals in half off of the bridge.
I was not aware of the issue regarding the traffic signal. As far as what Craig's have brought up to our attention in regard to perhaps making it easier for people to come onto 62nd Street, we are reviewing his suggestion, and his suggestion is to provide the stream right lane for turning as well on Sunday, which as it is now is that people can park there. So we are reviewing that, and we are probably, I cannot tell you for sure, but we are looking at the possibility of making that lane noise standing throughout, including Sunday.
Okay, all right.
But I would be very interested in listening to what you just said regarding the traffic signal, because I was not aware, and I don't think people above me are aware as well.
So the DOT came to Community Board 8, this committee right here on October 8th at around to present the signal timing change on 63rd and 2nd Avenue. And about 10 years ago, basic context is 10 years ago, the south side crosswalk was removed, and there was a barrier put there. Was removed due to the high amount of vehicles turning crosswalk back, and in order to account for that, do split phase timing. The problem with split phase timing is that all of usually all of the lanes are the way that the lanes are split now is both left lanes are left turn only, and the right lane, which is supposed to be moving to straight through to 63rd Street, what ends up happening is if somebody unloads in front of all the apartment buildings on the north side of 63rd Street, the entire bridge backs up. So it used to be that the center lane was through and turn. Now it's both turn, and you only have, in essence, you only have 22 seconds for all the traffic to go through rather than 46. And it's causing a large amount of traffic to come up to back up the Queensboro Bridge yet again. And especially with the snowbank that's there, there's effectively only 2 lanes to turn.
Well, Dylan, I don't know if you were here when this came up.
Yeah, this came up again last month. Yeah,
and as you know, we vigorously did not like it, and
yeah.
Judy Schneider led the charge because she was the one who really worked those years ago with the commissioner to get it the way it was and the way it had worked for a long time. And now they thought, well, okay, we've now progressed that we think we can have the crosswalk in there and it can work and all that. But I think our feeling was that was just not going to happen in the real world. Yeah. And I think what you're talking about bears that out.
Yes, so I waited on the upper level for 40 minutes the other day.
Yeah, so I think we're going to have to revisit that with them again. Yeah.
Just clarify though, did you say that the left turn there's the double left turn lane, correct?
So there's a double left turn lane where the phase 1.
It's a split phase, and the left turn is a delayed green, correct?
Correct. It's a 27-second delay green. Where the left turn phase B, as they called it, was 27 seconds of forward traffic only, which is the northernmost lane, which is often blocked by unloading cars off of the apartments. And then the second phase is left turn off of the 2 lanes. So what ends up happening is all the cars the 3 lanes that come off of the Queensboro Bridge turn left, are forced into 2 lanes. Then actually all the cars that want to go westbound are stuck in all the traffic that's trying to turn southbound on 2nd Avenue. So you have all of the conflict there, and then in the meantime, pedestrians are still crossing on the southbound even when they have the red light. They're crossing against the light because they think, oh, 2nd Avenue is not moving, so I'm going to cross.
Yeah, that's it. I think we thought it wasn't going to work, and I think and I think it's being borne out.
So there are no standing signs already in place there.
Yeah,
that's where we installed the crosswalk. Is that what you?
Yes.
Intersection, right?
Yeah, they're right. The crosswalk was not there for 10 years.
Right.
Everybody could come off and make the left turn, and people weren't. Some people sometimes cross there, but they weren't supposed to. But for the most part, they didn't. And you could have a free flowing traffic off the bridge essentially, and people could make that turn. Now, what Dylan is saying, which is what we thought would happen, there's now a lot of backup with the light timing and everything like that, and cars unloading in the right side there and everything else. And it's called, practicalities on the ground.
So I understand. So
what we want to do is we want to revisit that. We like DOT to take a look at that and get and talk about seeing whether it makes any sense to continue that if we're getting the kinds of situations that Dylan is talking about.
Yeah. Maybe this is an enforcement issue as well. In theory, what DOT did should work if there weren't vehicles that were stopped in the northbound lane, which is the impacted lane when there's a vehicle there blocking traffic going through Second Avenue.
Well, you know my theory about enforcement, that only works so much and it doesn't last. And you have to design systems that don't say they have to always be perfectly enforced.
It would be helpful if I can
That's why
get
Judy pushed for what she pushed all those years ago.
Chuck, it would be helpful if I can get that description that Dylan just
Sure.
brought up.
Yeah,
It's in a DOT letter that was sent to our board. It's posted on our October 2025 agenda. So you could just go to our website and pick it up, and then you
Which
could
one
read
was
the
that?
minutes of the presentation.
October for our October meeting.
Oh yeah, the October.
2025.
I was in that meeting.
Yeah. So if you go to our website, you can get the October 25 stuff. You can see it.
But the issue that Dylan was talking about has not been mentioned.
The letter describes the action that Dylan explained has been implemented and is now causing the backups that he described.
It's what he was talking about. You'll see the writing. You'll see it in writing.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay. Let's move on here. Who do we have in the public? I see Andrew wants was chomping at the bit. He wants another bite here. Go ahead.
Chuck, you're the best. Thank you. I just wanted to clarify in terms of the east side of Lexington Avenue. I never had any objections from the Department of Sanitation, from former Commissioner Tisch to Borough Chief Levy. It seemed like the path was clear, so to speak, on the east side of Lexington Avenue. However, the DOT, after piloting the west side of Lexington Avenue, shut it down without explanation and without any reason. So, Raphael, I just ask you to please take a look into this. There is no reason that the east side of Lexington Avenue should not have a street sweeper have unencumbered access for at least a half an hour a day. That's all I ask. And please follow up if you can.
Yeah, Andrew, I think we saw a letter about that they said that we got a letter from DOT that said sanitation told them that. So if you
I've had like literally
have you seen that? You haven't
dozens.
seen that letter? You haven't seen that letter, I assume, right?
Well, you can send me that letter, but I've had dozens of interactions with the Department of Sanitation on this issue over the last 2.5 years, and I have not seen an objection on their part. I did get the shutdown from the DOT. I think it was Colleen, but I'd really like this to be looked into. I hate to be so obsessive about it, but it just makes no rational sense that an avenue in Manhattan, in our neighborhood, in our CB, should be neglected from street cleaning altogether.
Yeah, well, look into that, Raphael, if you would, and go back
and I'll reach out to Chief Levy and again, but I really do think this is a failing on the part of the combination of DOT and DSNY, and I hope they can rectify it.
Yeah. Okay.
And thanks again.
We'll look further into it.
Okay.
Who's next? Paul.
Yeah, since Dylan spoke so eloquently on the fact that that corner is not working with the changes that were made, do we need to pass a resolution? Or Raphael, can you just tell us when your people will go out and monitor that corner? Because we can't get a permanent street traffic person to be at that intersection to monitor the traffic. And even if we have one, they don't do a great job. So it really needs DOT to go back and look at what you did
And maybe what you had before was better than what you've got now. And if you made a mistake, maybe we need to change it back.
But there has been comments now about the fact that there is no enforcement. And I
Well,
am, as a former math teacher, I can say that the enforcement term in a quality of life equation is no longer there. So if we look at,
Raphael, don't talk to me about enforcement. I was crossing in the mid-block on 63rd when you come off the bridge, and the woman that was doing the enforcement wasn't paying any attention to the
there you
people
go.
who are walking. She only paid attention to cars. When she finally, after many lights, saw all the walking people piling up, when I went across, I said, "Why aren't you paying attention to pedestrians?" And she just gave me a look. So if it's not working, let's not count on the traffic people. If what we had was better and we didn't have problems, I think there's nothing wrong with DOT saying, okay, maybe we should go back to what we had before. But your guys have to come out and look at the intersection the way Dylan so carefully explained it. Because there are a lot of, there is a huge apartment, there are two huge apartment buildings. We're about to have a school on the north side that's going to open in March, okay, which is going to have buses and whatever. And that one lane of traffic for the through traffic is just not going to happen. Okay. So it needs to be looked at by DOT. You made a change. If it didn't work, then go back and say, okay, it's a mistake. So I don't know how you get about doing that, Craig and Chuck. Do we have to pass a resolution, or do you guys, what do you do?
We would also want to give this a little time, let DOT look into it, and the change was only recently made, so it would probably be really a bit premature for us to try to take action without allowing
Okay.
for
But I'm telling you, it's only going to get worse when the school opens.
it may very well. And the school is at which
It's
side
a
of the
pre-K. It's going to be a private pre-K school, and it's going to have buses and people with cars bringing their 6-month to 5-year-olds there.
where exactly is that, along 63rd Street?
Yes, that's it. There are two apartment buildings, and then the school will open 307 East 63rd. Okay, and then you have got Con Ed.
So that literally is on that half block between the
Right.
bridge exit and Second
Exactly.
Avenue.
So it's not going to get better. It's going to get worse.
That is at least to my ears, something that is a very important piece of information as part of this puzzle.
Yeah. And one other question, Raphael, on 3rd Avenue and putting in you're talking about concrete
pedestrian
Right.
island instead
Do
of
you
the
have
painted
any
marking.
idea when that will happen? Will that be in 26, in 27, 28? Can you give us any kind of an approximation?
It could be this year, but right now it's, the weather does not allow to do that,
No,
so we have to
I
wait.
realize that.
Right, so
The weather doesn't allow for anything right now.
well, sometime, but
But
it would be
26 or 27, by 27.
it would be sometime this year or 27. I'm not quite sure, so please forgive me. And
Thank you. That's good. Thank you. I'm done.
All right. I think I skipped over Paul before, so I apologize. So Paul and then Michelle.
Thank you. Actually, I was trying to clarify what you said. I'm thrilled to hear you're talking about the whole stretch of Third Avenue. But I heard you say consider or plan. I heard plan as well. So can you clarify what it is? These?
Was that question for me? I'm sorry.
Yes. Is the DOT considering doing this or planning on doing this?
It's considering doing it, and that includes planning as well.
So considering means, what does considering mean? Can you explain?
Considering mean that it has been reviewed and it is understood that it is necessary in order to do that.
So that otherwise means it's a decision's been made to move forward doing it. Is that
Exactly. The
Thank
decision
you.
has been
I
made to
didn't hear
move
you say that.
forward to make sure that those pedestrian marking, they call it pedestrian island marking, is going to become then concrete pedestrian islands.
So the takeaway here is we're getting concrete islands. It's either this year or next year, sometime these 2 years.
Correct.
Thank you.
All right, Michelle, and then I have one quick item, and then we'll go back to York Avenue.
Okay, thank you, Craig.
You're muted.
Sorry, I thought I was unmuted. Raphael, you talked to us about 63rd Street, saying that the DOT was looking into the proposal of the no standing on the northbound side. Are you aware that you have no board resolution in favor of that proposal? As a matter of fact, you had another consideration proposed, which was to eliminate the bike lane. And at the full board, all that resulted to a tabling. So you have no mandate from the community board to change the north side of 63rd Street in that area, which you addressed. So I don't know if you know that, because since it was tabled, I don't know if you got any kind of information that it was tabled, but you have no mandate or resolution from this board to do that. Are you aware of that?
Yes, you are 100% correct. However, this is a concern that was brought up by your committee, particularly Craig's, and is also something that we found that is creating this kind of problem that was brought up to our attention. Now, if you like, we could wait until resolution is introduced and
well, that could be one option. But when you say that there was concern of the committee, that's absolutely correct. However, there was another proposal that we thought, that some of us thought would better serve that as a solution. And that was to eliminate the bike lane on that particular street. So when you say, however, there's no mandate for either one of those solutions from our committee, because it's been tabled, you can wait until it's brought up again and we have a resolution. But if you're a better solution, I think, is if the DOT is looking into it, although I think you should have a resolution from the board before you would proceed with any solution, because that's what we always ask you for. That's our way of weighing in. But if you're saying that the DOT is looking into that block, then I would also respectfully add that you also look into eliminating the bike lane as a way of 7 days a week opening up that second lane and letting traffic flow over the bridge, and to ask that those, that it not be treated with bias. In other words, if it's a real solution and it points to safety, there shouldn't be bias about not looking at the bike lane no matter what. I mean, that should be a solution that, if worthwhile and if it makes sense, it should be on the table like any other. So if the DOT is looking into that block, that proposal, eliminating the bike lane, would alleviate traffic there 24/7. And it's not a safe place for the bikes either. But we also discussed at that meeting that while the bike lane gives the bike network connectivity, that safety has to be a priority over connectivity. And so that if the DOT is looking into that street, number one, to please carry back to them that you have no mandate or resolution. And number two, to look into all proposed solutions, one of which was the elimination of the bike lane. So could you do that?
Of course, I can bring that up to.
Good.
I can bring that up to
Yeah, I'm not sure they knew.
I can
So
bring that up to the team. Of course, I will certainly do that. However, the core of that presentation was that particular lane that was occupied during that particular time that Craig took that video. And that was the focus of my presentation to my team. That indeed,
well, but you missed the fact
if
that
I
when
can finish,
we showed this to the
if
full
I
board,
if I
and what a lot of other people saw
if
were
I
that the cars were going into the bike lane.
if I
So
can,
however you presented it to them, the bottom line is that we don't have a resolution on it, and that I would think that the DOT would be just as happy to look for any solution on that street and not just focus on one.
and we have.
Excuse
If I
me
may.
excuse me for 1 second, Craig. Well, let me say something here. Look, Craig proposed a particular solution that affects part of it, and the board didn't accept that. But it's ultimately up to the DOT how they are going to look at it and review it. And I believe if the DOT looks at it, what they will do, I will predict what they will do. They will implement Craig's suggestion, and they will not remove the bike lane.
Well,
Because
you may be right, Chuck. You may be right.
And
But
they
what
can-
I'm saying to Raphael is the other suggestion was also the bike lane. And while the DOT is
listen, you can,
looking
he can,
look at it, that's all.
he can say they'll look at it, and I'm sure
Well,
they'll
that's
look
all.
at it.
I'm not going to
They'll
predict
look
what
at
they're
it.
going to do.
They'll look at it, but if you think they're going to change it, then you're in the wrong city at this time.
Well,
right now.
I think you're attributing a bias to them.
All right.
Well,
I don't think we
I'm not.
should. That's all.
Can I please interject here for a
Yeah,
second?
go ahead.
Please?
Go
That's
ahead.
all I'm
Please.
saying.
All
Look
right.
at it.
Please interject.
So, Michelle, DOT is well aware that a resolution was not passed, and Chuck and I have been working with our board office to see if DOT can come and present on the lower 60s bike network in response to the tabling of the resolution that we did. So we are following through with that. We're hoping possibly to have that take place this month. DOT was unable to provide anyone from the bike team, from the bike planning team, to be able to talk about it. So it didn't happen this month. We're hoping that it does happen soon. However, DOT also always has the responsibility of addressing critical safety concerns. So if they decide that there is a critical safety need to take action without a mandate from the community board, that is their prerogative to do. And we've seen them do that before. Sometimes we are happy with their implementation and action. Sometimes we're not. And that may very well be how it is here. But we are looking into the broader bike discussion, and what you are suggesting as a item that we are going to be discussing. And I think we will hopefully be able to come to a place where we will hopefully, regardless of the outcome, see a safer situation over there. And that's what we're all working for.
That's right. Just confirming that they're looking into all possibilities and that they are aware that they don't have a mandate from this board at this time. That's all.
Receive a resolution from us, and they know very well just because the committee passes a resolution doesn't mean the full board follows through.
Okay. Thanks.
All right. And
Okay.
now I have one very quick item. I promise it's very quick. If I'm able to, John, just share my screen, please.
You should be able to share your screen now.
Thank you. All right. Let me find it. Okay. So this here is, let me share it. All right. Can everyone see the photo?
Yes.
All right, so this is a photo I took this evening of the northwest corner of 86th Street and Lexington Avenue. And it is a very dangerous situation because, as you could see, the pedestrian signals are not flush with the actual intersection. And thus, if you are this is looking northbound across 86th Street from the southbound side. If you're looking at the traffic signal there, you don't know which traffic signal you are looking at, which one is the one for people trying to cross northbound, and which one is for people trying to go across Lexington Avenue. So this is related to the 86th Street subway.
Right.
entrance construction work, but this is a serious safety concern, at least in my mind. And I'm wondering if, Raphael, you could just bring this to whoever's attention to make sure that the pedestrian signals are adjusted so that they are facing the right direction and then so that pedestrians aren't confused.
So you saw this tonight, is that what you're
This-
saying?
Well,
Because I guess
It's been there since they put up this stuff for the construction of the subway. There's only one entrance to the downtown subway, and it's on
right.
on the south side of 86 in Lexington. And what he's saying, since I go there all the time, what he's saying is if you're on that side of the street and you want to go north, you don't have a clear look at the pedestrian signal there. I mean, I know you know nobody walks until the cars are stopped, but you should have a clear look at it.
Yeah, it looks awkward.
Yeah,
This
you
is
can see
something-
that it's not turned correctly, so it just needs
This
to
is
be.
something that we could fix right away.
Yeah,
If we have known
exactly.
it today, somebody
Yeah.
might have been there already. So thank you, Craig, for bringing that up to my attention now.
Yeah, good.
All
Okay.
right, thank you.
Okay, can we go to now the traffic, York Avenue traffic study item? Craig, I know you wanted to talk about this, and I think we've had a lot of back and forth between the borough commissioner and us and stuff. And
Chuck,
I think we're
I'm
there.
sorry, Chuck, I'm sorry for the interruption. Craig, can you send me that picture now? Because I will send an email right now to that unit that takes care of the traffic signals.
If you just give me a few minutes, I
When you
will.
have some time, you could do that.
Okay, yeah, I will do that as soon as we're done discussing this item. All right, so with this item, so this is, as Chuck alluded to, we received an email from Borough Commissioner Daniel Zuckerman advising us that they had received confirmation, much to Judy's chagrin, and confirming her fears that the work that is being done on the southern end of York Avenue related to the water project in the lower 60s is still not complete and is not expected to be completed until who knows when, supposedly in a few months or by June or so, but that has been a moving target for years at this point.
That's waiting for Godot.
Exactly.
I don't know if people are
And-
aware of the play, but that's it.
We passed the resolution last year
Right.
asking for DOT to basically put a hold on the start of the initial phase of the traffic study and data collection, because our concern was that everything was going to be affected by what was still ongoing on the southern end of the corridor, and that we would not get good, reliable data coming out of it. Flash ahead, and here we are, and we still have that ongoing construction. We know that there are going to be issues further up the corridor, alongside the MSK construction that is taking place. We're never going to have a perfect situation where we can have an unimpeded York Avenue where data collection could be performed. And DOT has told me offline that
right,
if one second, that it is really important that we move forward and try to get this moving underway, because if we wait too long, they may not be able to actually conduct the study. And I believe there is a time frame for them actually being able to have it in their budget before the money has to be moved elsewhere. So really, time is of the essence, and that is why Danielle reached out to us, asking for us to pass a resolution, essentially giving the green light to allow for data collection to begin across the entire corridor. Now, we made a request, and this is something that Judy had asked about, to see if we could start the data collection on the northern side of the corridor. But the concern that was raised, and I think Raphael alluded to it, is that it has to be done in its entirety. You can't just do it in phases, because you have to collect traffic across the corridor in its entirety in order to really be able to see the entire picture, because you could have fluctuations from day to day for various reasons. So you collect it in part on one side of the corridor, you collect it in part on a different day on the other side of the corridor, and it's not necessarily going to be accurate. So this is why we are bringing this up again today, and DOT is asking us for a resolution to say we are okay with them moving forward with it, and we are now ready for discussion. And Raphael, I think you want to say something.
Yes, I just wanted to kind of refresh the conversation, and I wanted to allude to that email you received from Danielle indicating that in order for us to proceed with the study, we need a resolution to do so.
And I should point out that this study is something that we asked them to do so many years ago. I can't even remember now. It was when Memorial Sloan Kettering, the big expansion was done. And that was now what, 10, 12, 15 years? I'm not sure.
Can we consider that the beginning of this conversation when I began to work for DOT 3 years ago?
Well, and something is always, well, first, as we know, just historically, DOT did come back with where they talked about what they were going to study, and they made the mistake of saying one of the things they were going to study was make York Avenue one way. And there was an explosion of that, and DOT then retreated into its bunker for about 5 years or 6 years or whatever after that. And then we have all this other stuff that got in the way. So there's been one thing after another, but I think as Craig said, it's really time to just get moving and get this thing out there. But go ahead, Judy. Let me certainly call on Judy first here on this.
Okay, well, yes, you're right about all of that, Chuck, because Barry was chair of the board and Margaret Forgione was Manhattan Borough Commissioner when that all started.
Oh my God.
And it went nowhere. So you know how far back we're going.
I do know. That's 25 years ago.
Well, maybe not quite that long, but whatever.
Well,
but now we need a study, and I don't remember if it was last year or 2 years ago. We did do one walk around with Colleen. Okay. I don't know whatever happened as a result of that. I have a question for you, Raphael. When you do this study, because I don't really know, do you study do you put either timers or whatever, or people on all the intersections at one time from the 90s all the way down to the 60s? Is it all done at one time at the various intersections? How do you
I must be honest with you. I don't know.
Okay, well, I would like, maybe when you come back next month, you could give us more information about how the study is actually conducted besides the walk around that we did. And the walk around that we did really wasn't very helpful because we did it on a weekday, and for some reason there was absolutely no traffic on York Avenue. Every place we walked, there were no cars, there was no nothing. So the walk, I don't know why, but it wasn't a very helpful walk around. So that's one question that I wanted to ask, and then I had another one.
I'm going to ask.
Oh, yes. The other question was, if we, and I hope we will, pass a motion tonight to approve the study and to get moving with it. But I am assuming that you would not start this study because if I heard the weather right, we're supposed to have some more snow between now and the weekend or on the weekend, that we're going to have continual snow for maybe another month, a month and a half, that you wouldn't start this study until sometime in March or April when snow would not be a factor? Or is that a wrong assumption?
No, that's the right assumption. I think is weather permitting.
Okay, well, by then, I think at least at the 60th Street end, I think they plan to finish sometime the end of March, maybe as late as June, but probably by the end of March. So 60th Street shouldn't be a problem. And MSK is only one block that they're taking up traffic on York Avenue, and that's between 6-6 and 6-7. Otherwise, they won't be interfering with any of the other blocks. And I'm not sure that specifically is a problem block.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
Michelle wanted to make a comment.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to be sure of the wording of the resolution. Chuck is very good with having a history of how things, all our resolutions. Do you have the exact wording of our last one? And that would have been after a resolution that specified a conclusion. That was the one, as Chuck alluded to, that caused quite an uproar. So I know we passed a more general and benign one where we're asking them to look into the situation, and then possible solutions would be drawn from the data that they find.
Right.
But we objected. We do not want them to study a certain solution. Do you know what I mean? So I'm interested in what the old wording was, which I have faith that Craig will be able to pull up in a jiffy. He has very good record keeping.
It was it was general. I mean,
it was general.
Yeah.
Right. We passed the resolution in 2020. I'm getting closer. Here we
Okay.
go.
I knew you'd find it.
Posted in chat. It's from April 2025.
Yeah, no, she's talking about the one in which we requested the study. So we, in 2020, CB8 requested NYC DOT conduct a comprehensive study of York Avenue traffic operations that focuses on the segment of York Avenue. At that time, because we were told that they wouldn't be able to do it, it was between 59th and 79th, and the core streets that impact York Avenue. Now, since then, DOT was able to actually expand it to the entirety of the corridor, which was what we had always sought.
To 96th Street.
To 96th Street. And then last year in what was it, in April, whatever month that was, we asked for them to postpone it because of the ongoing work in the lower 60s and the concerns that it would yield bad data because people were not had changed their travel behaviors as a result of the congestion and the work that was being done down there.
So now what would the wording of this resolution be?
That we
like 2021, but for the whole segment.
It would allude to the resolution we passed in 2025 asking for the postponement of the data collection. It would be New York City DOT is thus requested that we allow the study to move forward because of the
time constraints,
time constraints, whatever, and then therefore be it resolved that CB8 requested New York City DOT begin the York Avenue traffic study and begin data collection as soon as
from 59th to 96th or whatever it is, right?
Right.
Okay, that we're just asking for data collection.
Right.
It's the reversal of the resolution we passed last year in which we asked for it to be postponed due to the ongoing construction work.
Well, I don't think we have to even refer to that. In other words, if we're doing a new resolution tonight, as Raphael suggests, that we just say that we want the York Avenue traffic study to begin from 60 blah blah to 96th
to 96th Street. That's fine also.
Judy wants to be go ahead, Judy. She wants to be recognized here in this.
Yeah, as I think we need to put in there as weather permits. We don't want them starting this study in the middle of all the snow all over the place, and then we get another one.
We should say
that I think that really goes without saying. They're not going to sabotage a study.
I'd like to put that in there because
Okay.
I mean, I don't know what your area looks like, but down here in the 60s, it's a mess.
Okay, well, you know, as they used to, if anyone ever saw that thing, Rumpole of the Bailey, when he was referring to his wife, she who must be obeyed. So in this case, he who must be obeyed.
Chuck just
We'll
has
put that in.
all the pop culture references tonight.
I know. I'm having a roll somewhere. Okay, good. So do we have any I don't think we need to discuss this any further.
Move
So
to approve.
okay, and
There's
so
second.
and second, do you want to call the roll just so we have everybody
Yep.
right?
All right. It's me, Chuck, DJ, John, Judy, John Phillips, Judy, Michelle, Paul, Sebastian.
Okay. So anyone who wants to approve doesn't have to do anything. Anyone who wants to vote no or abstention or not voting for any other reason, raise your hand. Okay. Seeing nothing. I think that does pass
Has
unanimously.
his hand up.
Sebastian's Henry.
Oh, he's raising your hand. Oh, sorry. Sebastian.
I'm not objecting. Would you just point of information clarify what is the resolution?
Oh, okay. That I thought we did do that, but it's just basically we want to urge DOT to move forward on the York Avenue study from 59th to 96 data collection for the York Avenue study 59th to 96 weather permitting.
Very good. Thank you.
Okay, okay. So I think we're I think we're all that's all done. I don't know if we have anything else. Is there anyone else who wants to be heard on anything at this point? Or are we ready to adjourn? Okay. Well, I thank everyone. Brisk discussions, good idea.
Thank you all.
Thank you,
Okay.
everyone.
So I think we are adjourned.
Craig, send me that picture, please.
He
have my
will.
phone out to do it right now.
Thank you.
Okay, take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.